Hey guys, I'm Tyler and welcome back to my new shop, which we are still in the process of building. As you guys know, this isn't just a workshop. This is a studio/workshop, and lighting is very important so I get good image quality for the videos that you guys watch here on YouTube. As you can see behind me, the lighting is absolutely abysmal right now. And to get good lighting, you need electricity. I'm going to be installing a bunch of LED light fixtures from American Green Light, who is the sponsor of today's video. Link to their website in the description down below if you would like to find some of these awesome light fixtures that I'm using in my shop. I'm also going to be running new electrical for the power tools in such a way that does not affect the lighting in this studio/workshop. So I want to take a second and explain what's going on here. This is obviously the shop. The electrical panel is down on the opposite side of the barn this way. This is the new wall that you saw us build in the previous video up here on YouTube. Currently, there are 3 different cables run down here for power. One was a 240 volt circuit that was not in use down here. I believe used to be for an air compressor. We are going to pull that one back from this area and run it down over here to run the table saw. Table saw will be on its own dedicated circuit. Then there is a second 120 volt cable that runs 4 receptacles around the outside perimeter of the shop. Those are going to stay in place. We're not going to do anything with those. The third one that was run down here ran a couple of fluorescence and incandescent bulbs that were down in this area. We're going to split that one up to run all of the LED fixtures in this area. All of the LED panels that we're putting in place, a total of 16, only use about 150 watts of power. Is not even an equivalent of 2 of the old 100 watt incandescent bulbs that we used to use. Then we're going to run 4 more cables down into this area. One of them is going to be a 10 gauge cable that's going to run all the way down and across the shop over to here for the air conditioner/heating unit. I'm going to run that into 10 gauge wire so that we don't get any voltage drop, and it's going to be its own circuit so it doesn't affect the rest of the tools. Then we're going to pull down a 110 volt cable that is going to be just for the dust collector. Again, on its own circuit so we can run this without affecting any of the circuit breakers for the other tools. Then we're going to run down another 120 volt that's going to run the assembly table, jointer planer, and then the CNC router that's over here. None of these will be running at the same time, so one 20 amp 120 volt circuit will work just fine. And then we're going to run one last one down for a total of 4 that's going to run the receptacles along this wall. Quick tip, when you're pulling Romax out of a new spool, pull it out of the middle. Comes right out perfectly. If you pull it out of the outside, it gets kinked up and it's a terrible mess. I'm just going to mark the wires with different amounts of tape so that we know which one we're pulling, because we're running 3 at one time to save time. So I'll put 2 black on that one and 1 black on this one. Then the other wire is orange, so we know that one pretty easily. To run the Romax down into the shop area, we were simply able to pull a bundle, which for us was 3 at a time because I had 2 14 gauge Romax cables and 1 for the bigger 240 volt. We were able to pull them down all in a bundle and tuck them up between the truss and the attic boards. Making your brothers do the dirty work is the best way to get the dirty work done. Right, Mars? Yep. Killing it. There you go. We kind of skipped a giant chunk there, but basically the gist of the story so far is we got all of the cables pulled down into the shop area and across the new wall that we had just put in. Part of the cabling going across the new wall was going to be for a switch to run the lights, and then a couple receptacles along that wall as well. These LED fixtures from American Green Lights come in 2 different parts. The first part is going to be what is the ballast or the converter, and then the reflector. Here you can see the ballast for the bigger, which is the double strips of LED. These are 48 watt LED fixtures, and then the single is a 24 watt fixture. Each of the fixtures come with their nice little instruction manual. And here you can see the ground, neutral, and hot wires for a single, so the 24 watt fixture. This is a single ballast or converter inside there. I say ballast, but it's actually a converter only. And the plug for the lens and LEDs, and this is an addition that we put in. And then the little pack of wire nuts, there's a drywall anchor, a couple different mounting screws, and then 4 smaller screws for mounting the reflector on the fixture itself. Since we are going to be daisy chaining these all on one switch, we went ahead and added the crimps while they were on the ground. Let's jump back into the plans here and talk about the lighting layout. Jim over at American Green Lights gave me a great layout where he had the fixtures in and the color temperature that those lights would cast on the tools themselves, and he said to use that as a template and modify it as I see fit. We did have to add a few more lights in the middle of the shop as I didn't think it was bright enough when we got them installed in the first place. So as you can see from the picture of the shop, I basically ran along the outside perimeter so that I would have good lighting on the outside tools. Then there are 6 higher watt fixtures in the middle of the shop, casting down and bouncing the light out, giving a nice even color temperature light all around the shop. To get all the fixtures mounted on the ceiling, it was a couple step process. First of all, we measured away from the truss of the barn so that everything was parallel and uniform across the shop. And then my brother and I would shoot a screw through either end of the fixture to hold it in place. And we've repeated this again and again and again. In total, there are 16 fixtures in this shop. Once we were happy and complete with the placement of the fixtures, it was time to run some wiring. And since these are going to be in serial configuration, which is one after another, I was able to daisy chain them all off of one switch. Like I mentioned previously in the video, in total, these lights only use about 150 watts of power, so the wires that are 14 gauge are totally capable of carrying this small amount of current. Strip the wires, which are a neutral, hot, and a ground, and then per my engineering job, I always like to wire wires in a certain order, just in case I ever am wiring 3-phase, I always remember. What I like to do is red, white, and black, and I always remember that because of red, white, and blue for the colors of the US. In this case, I always start with the ground, and then because I only have white and black, those are what I do next, and I repeat that again and again, and that keeps me out of trouble. Once I had the 120 volt wires connected, it was time to plug in the lens reflector, which actually holds the LED strips in place. This was a long lead on the lens itself, so I just had to tuck it into place and then use an impact wrench to screw the lens into place. This is the first time turning it on with all of them. Oh, that is pretty nice. Pretty nice. I do want to take a second and talk about the output quality of the light from these American Green Light fixtures. They're a full spectrum light so that you get the best quality light, especially for use with cameras, which is obviously important in here. In every video that we do produce here, I do have to adjust the white balance of the camera, and the natural white balance output with these fixtures in place is absolutely perfect. I'm going to pop up a couple past videos where there are some iffy color corrections in there so you can see just how good the color quality is with these lights. Now we just got to go straighten up all those wires, and then we can do the drop downs for the power for some of the tools. We actually don't need any over here. We got one for the dust collector, drop down here for the jointer, and so on. But now that we can see, we'll get right on those. For the drop downs in the shop, I am using 1/2-inch EMT conduit. I cut it using my new favorite cutoff discs from Gator Grit, much easier than using a hacksaw, being sure to clean them up so that I wouldn't cut the jacket of the Romex wire. Going to install an offset over each of the boxes so that the EMT sits up flat against the wall. Be sure to add a protective grommet towards the top of the EMT conduit so that you don't nick the jacket of the Romex. I am daisy chaining these wires, which means I have 2 in the relatively small 1/2-inch EMT conduit, but I found that if I stacked it without any twisting, the 2 Romex wires fed through very easily. The offset elbows also had a kind of rectangular opening, so I found it was best to stack the Romex evenly again without any twists and feed the longer one through first, and this would allow the second one to slide over the top much easier than with any twist or unevenness. Once all the conduit was in place, it was a matter of cutting the Romex to the proper length, stripping the jackets off of the Romex and the wires, being careful not to nick the jacket of the wiring underneath, stripping them, and added all of the receptacles. I'm not sure if adding electrical tape around receptacles to cover the terminals of them is electrical code, but I always like to do it when I'm using metal boxes and EMT conduit like this, just in case when I'm pulling this out, potentially live, I don't trip the circuit. Well, that is a wrap on the electrical and the lighting for the new DIYTyler shop, and I think looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I do think I will have a separate video for putting that mini split in, as I simply ran out of time in this video. But I'm not making a guarantee here, but I'm pretty sure that the next video will be a new project from this new shop, so I'm kind of excited about that. The mini split will follow sometime in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hammer that thumbs up button. Helps us out a ton. And if you like what we do, hit that subscribe button right over there so you never miss when we upload a new video. I'm DIYTyler. You guys have a good one.